On World News Tonight this Monday, the Dow Jones hits a record high. Why all this confidence on Wall Street? Dr. Jack Kevorkian takes another very bold step in the right to die debate. Millions of people watch a man die on television. And what the Pentagon's own auditors say about the weapon systems that will not work in some other countries.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. This was some day in the business world and on Wall Street when the bell rang to end the stock market day. The market was at a record high of 9,374, up 214 points today. And there were no fewer than 10 corporate mergers today, several of them enormous and 2 of them particularly driving a very vigorous stock market in general. First, here's ABC's Betsy Stark.
The wave of merger deals set the market on its record-breaking run today. News that America Online is likely to acquire Netscape, charged-up technology stocks, and talk of a deal between banking giants Deutsche Bank in Germany and American-owned Bankers Trust ignited a powerful rally in financial stocks. But other events set the stage for today's new high. 3 interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve in just 7 weeks' time have reassured investors the Fed stands ready to do what it takes to keep the healthy U.S. economy growing.
The bottom line is that the market is made up of human beings, and we always go to extremes in our emotions. We had extreme fear this summer. Now we're getting extreme greed, and that's fine. Fortunately, the greed is backed up by sound fundamentals.
Investors have also been moved by signs the crisis overseas may have stabilized. Money is flowing back into Asian stock markets. The Japanese have proposed numerous plans to shake their economy out of recession. And the International Monetary Fund has shored up confidence in Brazil's future with a massive bailout package. It's all added up to one of the wildest rides in Wall Street history. Investors who believed the worst about where the world's economies were headed from July to September, pushing the Dow Industrials down more than 1,800 points, have now sent it back up just as quickly, apparently prepared to believe the best. Others are less sure. They say it will take strong corporate earnings to justify stock prices this high, and with 1/3 of the globe still in recession, that could be tough. Betsy Stark, ABC News, New York.
It was, by the way, also a good day on the NASDAQ. Heavy as it is with high-tech and computer stocks, the NASDAQ was up 49 points. The big computer news is the negotiation between America Online and Netscape. AOL is close to buying Netscape for $4 billion in stock. This is a deal that would unite 2 of the biggest names on the Internet. And here to explain all of that is ABC's Bob Jamieson.
America Online and Netscape serve different parts of the online audience. Together, they could become a powerhouse. America Online has 14 million paid subscribers to its network of entertainment, information, and popular chat rooms. Netscape has the most popular technology for finding your way around the Internet, the Netscape Navigator, and 20 million a month visit its webpage.
Netscape, for America Online, would provide them with not only a larger base of customers, a larger base of usage, but essentially a larger portal to access the entire Internet space.
Another company, Sun Microsystems, could also become part of the deal. Sun has popularized Java, an Internet program language that does not depend on Microsoft Windows technology. Together, America Online, Netscape, and Sun would pose a credible challenge to giant Microsoft, which has been investing heavily in online ventures.
So combined, they have a much larger audience, at least starting the surfing experience, than Microsoft has right now.
Microsoft has fought with all 3 companies in the marketplace and in court. At the antitrust trial in Washington, Microsoft is charged with using strong-arm tactics against Netscape. But Microsoft's lawyers said today's news bolsters their defense.
The proposed deal demonstrates a simple truth, that there is vigorous competition in the marketplace.
The combination of AOL and Netscape could grab a large share of the exploding Internet marketplace. Sales from advertising and electronic storefronts that just 4 years from now could total $3 trillion. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, New York.
Still on the money tonight, the tight job market. 1/4 of U.S. companies expect to add workers in the first 3 months of 1999. Only 1 in 10 companies plans to cut. And the average salary increase will be about 4% next year, which is above the inflation rate. There are also indications today that the settlement between 46 states and the tobacco companies was actually signed today. The tobacco companies didn't waste any time raising cigarette prices to help defer the cost, which is $206 billion. Philip Morris, the nation's biggest tobacco company, said it will raise prices by 45 cents a pack. R.J. Reynolds is also raising prices, and other big companies are expected to follow suit. In a moment, Iraq and the United Nations. Who is provoking whom?
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Chevy Trucks. Chevy Tahoe, like a rock.
You know, the last I looked, the average workday lasts more than a few hours, right?
Right.
But average pain relievers may work for a few hours, then quit. Good thing there's Aleve. Aleve has the strength to work on arthritis pain all day long with just 2 pills. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that. So, if your pain reliever isn't putting in a full day's work,
Fire it.
fire it and take Aleve. 2 pills, all day relief. Works for me.
Great meal. Uh-oh, gas pressure. What now? What else? Gas-X, with the most powerful medicine for fast relief. Nothing works faster.
Hey, want to go for ice cream?
Gas-X, the power to fight gas fast.
There's another shoving match going on between the chief United Nations weapons inspector and the Iraqis. And once again, it has to do with whether Iraq is telling the truth about its weapons programs. First, in Baghdad, ABC's Morton Dean.
The UN arms inspectors will not get all the documents demanded by their boss, Richard Butler. Iraqi officials made that clear again this evening.
All we have, we gave. All we don't have, we stated we don't have.
Iraq insists some of the documents requested by Butler never existed. Some were destroyed or were handed over before, while others were not relevant. Deputy Prime Minister Aziz, in a letter to the President of the Security Council today, suggested Butler is trying to cast doubt on Iraq's cooperation to provide a pretext for the U.S. and Britain to launch a military attack and to block a UN comprehensive review of the sanctions. Sharing the spotlight with the document controversy on the evening news here was a report of the attempted assassination against one of Saddam Hussein's closest advisors. Izzat Ibrahim is the vice president of Iraq's Revolutionary Command Council. He was shown at a prayer meeting today as Iraqi TV reported he had escaped harm when hand grenades were hurled at him by 2 unidentified men. It happened in a Shiite stronghold about 50 miles from here, where there has been opposition to Saddam Hussein in the past. It's bound to arouse suspicions among some Iraqis that U.S. support of Saddam's opposition may have prompted the attack. Morton Dean, ABC News, Baghdad.
Let's go back to the weapons debate. The State Department spokesman said today the 12 sets of documents which the United Nations wants are important. ABC's John McCarthy reports from the Pentagon on that debate.
The arguments made by Iraq do not impress U.S. officials.
If Iraq hadn't spent the last 6 or 7 years denying access, denying cooperation, refusing documents, and engaged in a pattern of deceit, they wouldn't find themselves in a situation where the burden of proof is on them.
Here's an example of American suspicions, the so-called Air Force document, an Iraqi log of how many poison gas artillery shells it used during its war with Iran during the 1980s. The number shown on this log is 6,000 shells fewer than Iraq later told the UN it used. If the log is correct, it means the UN must now search for 6,000 shells or get a satisfactory explanation. Iraq says it will show the UN only part of the document. As for the other 11 documents the UN wants, including diaries of military officers and engineers, minutes of meetings, Iraq claims most have been destroyed or lost.
The dog ate my homework is not an excuse that's acceptable.
But is that sufficient grounds to launch airstrikes? The answer appears to be no, not yet anyway.
We have to look at the full spectrum of their level of cooperation.
The key is whether Iraq cooperates with the UN's most aggressive type of surprise inspections. Those are expected to begin in 2 or 3 weeks. American officials say those inspections are worth waiting for. If Iraq cooperates, such inspections might uncover crucial new information. If the Iraqis do not cooperate, then the American case for airstrikes will be stronger. John McWethy, ABC News, the Pentagon.
One other note from overseas, the Russian President Boris Yeltsin is in the hospital again. This time he has pneumonia. He did feel well enough after getting some antibiotics to visit with the Chinese President Jiang Zemin today. And a spokesman says Mr. Yeltsin's condition has stabilized, but he has a slight fever. When we come back, Dr. Kevorkian's crusade. Question, how many other doctors do roughly the same thing?
It's no mystery why millions of people have moved to the digital home entertainment of DirecTV. Because DirecTV gives them more movies, sports, and a variety of programming they just can't get from cable. So what are you looking at? If it's not DirecTV, see your retailer for a demo today.
Some things can never be taught in a classroom. You won't find them in any textbook. And with Fixodent's long-lasting hold, you'll be ready, no matter where the lesson takes you. For long-lasting hold, Fixodent, and forget it.
My first boyfriend, Rick Whiting. I hadn't seen him in years. We're at our 20th reunion, catching up, and I get this terrible heartburn. But Rick hands me Zantac 75. Thanks, I said. So, did you ever become an accountant? No, he says. A doctor.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
Dr. Rick Whiting.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Number 4, please.
This is just too good to keep to ourselves.
I know.
We have got to let the people know.
You're right. Everybody, I have an announcement. 10-10-3-2-1 is now better than ever.
How's that?
Now you save 50% on calls over 10 minutes.
Half off 10 minutes?
What about calls to Mexico?
International calls over 10 minutes are half off too.
Jimmy, you forgot something. Double fries and make it fast.
Tonight we're going to take a closer look at physician-assisted suicide. As a debate, it was bound to come up again after 60 Minutes on CBS last night. On last night's program, millions of us saw Dr. Jack Kevorkian give a terminally ill patient who said he wanted to die a series of injections which ended the man's life. This was Dr. Kevorkian's very public, very provocative way of trying to advance the case for euthanasia. Once again, Dr. Kevorkian has laid down a challenge to prosecutors in Michigan. Today, here's ABC's Jim Williams.
The videotape is Dr. Kevorkian's boldest challenge yet to authorities. The retired pathologist is seen giving a lethal injection to 52-year-old Thomas Yauch, who had Lou Gehrig's disease. The county prosecutor said today he must view the entire tape before deciding whether to charge Kevorkian, but he believes a homicide occurred.
After viewing the edited portions of the video last night, it appeared a homicide was committed in violation of the laws of the state of Michigan.
Kevorkian has a history of provoking authorities. He claims to have helped 120 people kill themselves, in some cases showing them how to use a suicide machine he created. He has been acquitted 3 times of assisted suicide charges, and a 4th case ended in a mistrial. But the death of Thomas Yauch was the first time Kevorkian himself killed a patient, and its showing on national television has provoked an outcry. At least 6 CBS affiliates, all owned by the Belo Corporation, refused to air the segment.
I just felt that it was too graphic to see somebody die on air.
In a written statement, the network said, quote, CBS believes this program performed a public service. However, CBS respects the rights of local broadcasters to determine what's appropriate for their communities. Kevorkian's attorney says his client hopes this latest case will challenge Michigan's newly enacted law that makes assisted suicide a felony.
It's not about publicity. It's about getting the issue discussed and getting the issue out into the open.
Kevorkian says authorities must charge him with killing Thomas Yauch. If not, he says, they must agree that what he did was no crime. Jim Williams, ABC News, Oakland County, Michigan.
Well, Dr. Kevorkian certainly got our attention again. He's also raised the stakes, because what we saw on television wasn't just doctor-assisted suicide. Dr. Kevorkian took a life with his own hands. Actually, it's something that's been happening quietly in America for some time. Here's ABC's John McKenzie.
Increasingly, doctors acknowledge that physician-assisted suicide is not uncommon.
Physicians can withhold care, not put people on ventilators. They can take patients off the ventilator or terminate dialysis.
This year, the New England Journal of Medicine published a survey of nearly 2,000 physicians who treat terminal illness. The survey found more than 3% of the doctors had written at least one prescription to help a patient commit suicide, and nearly 5% of the doctors said they themselves had administered a lethal injection. Oregon is still the only state that legally sanctions doctor-assisted suicide. The law, which took effect a year ago, allows doctors to prescribe drugs that would end the life of someone terminally ill. It requires that 2 physicians certify that the patient is unlikely to live more than 6 months. Recent government data show 10 qualified patients in Oregon have requested the drugs, and 8 have actually used them to commit suicide. Ironically, since the debate began there on doctor-assisted suicide, the state has tried to reduce the appeal of the suicide option by dramatically improving treatments for the terminally ill.
The whole care system, doctors, pharmacists, educators, have rallied to do better end-of-life care.
And then there is Holland, where people have free health care, and euthanasia is becoming increasingly common. As many as 50% of doctors there say they have ended the life of a terminally ill patient. But a government study revealed a chilling statistic. In more than 1,000 cases, doctors have ended a patient's life without the patient's request. One report says that the rules on euthanasia in Holland are now so frequently disregarded that people there are advised to carry a living will, asking doctors specifically not to kill them. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
This debate will continue later this evening on Nightline. And when we come back, so much land and so little law enforcement on the Indian reservations of the Southwest.
You thought it was over with, but you're still smoking. You keep trying to quit, but you keep lighting up. Zyban can help you look at quitting a whole new way. It's the nicotine in cigarettes that's addictive. It's been proven, and most people need help to quit. Today, there's nicotine-free Zyban. Not a patch, not a gum. Instead, the first pill that is part of a comprehensive program from your doctor can help you quit smoking. Zyban is prescription medicine that can help reduce your urge to smoke and make quitting bearable. It's important to know there's a risk of seizure associated with Zyban. To reduce the risk, don't take Zyban if you've had an eating or seizure disorder or are being treated with Wellbutrin. Don't take Zyban if you're taking an MAO inhibitor. Quitting is tough, and Zyban won't work for everyone. Call now for a $5 coupon and free product information. Ask your doctor if Zyban is right for you, and break free from nicotine. Break free from smoking.
Open wide! It's new Friskies Dental Diet.
Now there's a great tasting cat food that helps reduce plaque and tartar buildup by 25%. That's news to chew on.
Toothbrushes? Poor humans.
New Friskies Dental Diet.
For 97 years, GMC has designed trucks for people who drove them not because they were trendy, but because their lives depended on them. Heroes who measured a truck by its power and its determination. That heritage lives in the new Yukon Denali. A luxury SUV with a 255 horsepower V8. It meets the demands of professionals and the standards of history. The Yukon Denali by GMC.
Oh, this head cold. I'm so clogged up, I just can't focus.
You okay?
If this meeting doesn't go well, it's all that work wasted.
You gotta stay focused.
I'll find a way.
Clear the congestion with Tavus D, prescription strength. Just one gives you 12 hours of uninterrupted relief. To get that, you'd need 4 Tylenol cold pills. Tavus D clears your congestion, so you're clear-headed again. Why be congested? Be clear-headed, clear through your day with Tavus D.
Now, elsewhere around the country today, in Chicago, police looked, but they did not find any more victims of the 1970 serial killer John Wayne Gacy. They actually excavated an area near an apartment building where Gacy's mother once lived and where a Chicago police officer said he saw Gacy carrying a shovel 23 years ago. Gacy was executed in 1994 for killing 33 men and boys. In the wide open spaces of the western United States, there is what the U.S. Attorney General's office has called a public safety crisis. There are simply not enough police officers to go around on the vast expanses of Indian reservation land. And the murder rate on some reservations is twice that of other places. ABC's Tom Foreman reports tonight from Window Rock, Arizona.
145, 64.
When Navajo police go on night patrol in Arizona, they think about Officer Hosky Jean. The 35-year-old father of 5 was investigating a burglary one cold night when he was jumped by 2 men. He radioed for help, but by the time it arrived, Officer Jean was dead.
They overpowered him and beat him to death, essentially. And his backup was a good, 60 miles away.
On the vast Indian reservations of the West, violent crime is exploding. Murders have risen 87%. Yet Indian police, who are funded by the Federal Bureau of Indian Affairs, are so underfunded they have only 1/3 as many officers as most other communities.
The budget, the funding has never been adequate. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that.
A single patrolman may cover 3,000 square miles, going endlessly from call to call.
You're going to have to make it short and quick and get back on the road to respond to another one. You're constantly be moving about.
That was what Captain Jack Spencer was doing when at the end of a 30-hour shift, he fell asleep at the wheel, crashed, and died. Indian police departments often lack even the basics: decent squad cars, working radios, bulletproof vests. Many reservations do not have 911 service or even spare tires for their squad cars. The Navajos finally gave up on this police substation, letting the gangs take over. They hope to reclaim it someday, but for now they are outmanned, outgunned, out of luck. Tom Foreman, ABC News, Denver.
And just a little farther west, in California, Whitewater figure Susan McDougal was found not guilty today on charges of embezzlement and income tax evasion. She'd been accused of stealing $50,000 from the conductor Zubin Mehta and his wife. This case was not related to her refusal to testify against President Clinton in the Whitewater case. When we come back, your money, the cost of not asking the right questions.
T-bone, T-bone, looking for a T-bone, chewy, meaty T-bone at the big T-bone store. There's one. No, that's not one. Over there. No, over on the shelf. Oh, too green. Wait a minute there. A whole package of little chewy, meaty T-bone steaks. I'm waking up.
Mama brought you some T-bones dog snacks.
Made with real meat, so dogs think it's a T-bone. Resealable T-bones, brand from Purina. Dogs don't know it's not a T-bone. It's a T-bone.
Gosh, you know, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchiladas?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
So I get this mail from Progressive saying they have a smart new way to shop for auto insurance.
Progressive, can I help you?
They give you their rates plus the rates of several other companies. I wonder whose rates are going to be lowest.
It looks like you could save over $200 if you went with...
What? You're an insurance company?
Hey, we know how hard it is to shop for auto insurance. A lot of times we're the lowest. Sometimes we're not.
That's not what I expected from an insurance company. And then he said, well, maybe you should.
Call 1-800-AUTO-PRO or your authorized independent agent.
great moment in television. NYPD Blue, ABC Tuesday at 9:30, 8:30 Central. Viewer discretion advised.
A brief review of the main story. It was a big day in the business world and on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 214 points to a record high of 9,374. And there were 10 corporate mergers making news today, including the negotiations between America Online and Netscape. Pretty much drove the market today. Finally, your money and how the military can sometimes spend first. We're talking tax dollars now. We're talking in this specific case about the military's communication systems and how expensive it can be to assume. Here's ABC's John Martin.
With all the icons on it.
At military trade shows, you hear lots of questions.
How much bandwidth are we using right now?
But here's one the Pentagon often does not ask. Does this gear work in the countries where it plans to use it? Not always, say Pentagon auditors. They found $39 billion worth of U.S. weapons and equipment overseas that cannot be used.
It's an operational crisis because these weapon systems will not perform as well as you want because they can't use certain frequencies.
Why aren't those frequencies available? Because Pentagon officials who refused to talk to us on camera didn't get permission from foreign countries to use them.
Liftoff. That didn't stop the Pentagon. In one case, it sent gear into space over a nation that, surprise, was already using the frequencies. These satellites, part of a Navy navigational system, do not work properly over Japan because the Japanese did not give them clearance. Cost $396 million. In Europe, the Pentagon wanted to fly this unmanned craft, but did not get frequency approval. Result, $900 million worth of drones are on hold. The same for $7 billion in surveillance aircraft. In South Korea, Patriot missiles operate on the same frequency as local cell phones. The missile manufacturer says there's no problem, but the Pentagon Inspector General says there is. So what might happen if a Patriot missile were overpowered by strong bursts of cell phone transmissions?
The most likely thing to do, it would in effect just jam the command and control signal and in effect disable the guidance system.
The missile could go in any direction.
Could go anywhere.
Congress is just beginning to give the Pentagon some static about this.
They need to be using taxpayer dollars to buy equipment that they can use. And if they're not doing that, then obviously the system's broke.
The senator wants hearings to clear the air. Being on the wrong wavelength is wasting billions of dollars. It's your money. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
Tomorrow, your money and the stolen trees. That's our report on World News tonight. Don't forget Nightline later. Is Dr. Kevorkian going to help legalize euthanasia? That'll be their debate tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now